All right, appraisers, we are going to go ahead and start this up here. So for all of you out there, first of all, thank you so much for joining us on the training today on this webinar. Really excited to have everybody with ACI on board. We just integrated with ACI around 2 or 3 weeks ago, and we've already had a huge number of appraisers trying out Spark, and we have seen that there were quite a few of you who probably activated an account with us because of the buzz, the emails you got, or other people saying things, but you hadn't actually tried it out yet. So the purpose of this webinar is kind of to give you a little jump start, to give you some information, maybe a better idea of what to expect when you're using Spark and how to use it to hopefully help you through the process. So we're going to go ahead and get into it here. And just to start out, my name is Brandon. I am a real estate appraiser in the Phoenix market. I've been appraising for right around 14 years, and I'm the co-creator of Spark. We also have Kyle here, who is the other half of Spark, and he's going to be checking the comments and questions you might be posting. So make sure and any questions you have, go ahead and post those up in your comment box there, and Kyle will be checking those out. And we should be able to get to every question or comment that you have today before we end this. But if we don't, for some reason, if we don't have time and we need to end, then we'll make sure and respond to you by email. So just throw up any questions or comments you have in there, and we'll get to them as we can. And Kyle will either save some till the end or just cut me off and ask me questions as we go through this. All right, so let's go ahead and get into it. First of all, if you haven't seen the details of Spark yet, basically it's a data importing tool. It'll bring in MLS and public records data from for your subject and comps into your sales grid. It'll do a really robust and customizable market analysis, and it can do that on multiple sets of data as well. And then we also have, as you can see on the screen, hopefully in front of you, it says, it shows that we do the cost approach. So we have cost data now, so you can pull in the information for your subject property. And we actually also now have tools in there to help you with calculating or helping you with your opinion of site value using either the extraction or allocation methods. And then last, we also have a really thorough and digital work file. So basically what we do is we give you a whole bunch of documents related to all the things you did while you were in Spark so that you have those in your work file to support yourself later on. So all the formulas, how, for example, site extraction was calculated, maybe how your time adjustments were calculated, all that kind of stuff, the regression analysis, it'll all be in your digital work file for you. And we'll get into all that so you can see exactly what I'm talking about. All right, so let's go ahead and get into it. And I think what we decided is we're going to go through this once fairly quickly, just to kind of show you on a day-to-day basis how you can plan on using Spark. It should take you around 2 to 5 minutes from the moment you load up Spark to the moment you have all the data in your ACI report. So just to kind of show you how quick and easy it'll be to use. And I know some of this might not make sense the first time we go through it, but then after we go through it once quickly, then we'll get into it and spend some more time showing you how you can customize it and all the different little things you can do inside of Spark. Okay, so let's go ahead and do it. I have my files down here, and again, I will get into more detail on where these files came from, but I'm using Google Chrome, and down here in the bottom left, I have the files that I got from my MLS. So you as the appraiser, the first thing you would do, you go into your MLS, you do your search for your competing properties for the 1004 MC, you do your search for your properties that you want to load into the sales grid. In Spark, we want you to be in control, so you pick everything, you export it from your MLS, and then Spark will do all the translating and all that kind of stuff. So basically, I went into my MLS and I did do a search for 3 files. Now, I know some of you, if you're using other products like Spark, you might be used to only having 2, one for your MC and one for your comps for your sales grid. But in Spark, we also allow you to have a 3rd file, which is the file that you'll use to have Spark calculate your low, high, and predominant price and age. Because for many appraisers, they use a different, larger set of data. If you don't, if you use the same set of data that you use for your 1004 MC for the low, high, predominant, then that's fine. You just do your 2 searches and you load those data sets in. And I know I might have already thrown some of you off, but just stick with me and I think you'll see what I mean as we go through it. All right, so I'm going to go into Spark now. And when you get to Spark for the first time, and by the way, Spark is a website. It's not an application you have to install on your computer. So you just go to the website, you log in, and you're there. So the first thing it'll ask you once you have got in and used it a few times is it's going to ask you for your effective date. So you just pick that. And then you load in your properties for your sales grid. So I'm going to grab those, drag them up here, and drop them on. All right, so I've got those loaded in. And now I just click this next button that's appearing at the top of my screen. and then Spark takes me to the grid. And now let's just say, for the purposes of this little demo here, that I have a subject property, which is this listing. Let's just say my subject in this case was this listing right here. I can actually tell Spark that this property is my subject. So I just drag it up to where it says add subject, and then Spark will convert that property into my subject. So now that's here. I've got the rest of my comps. And let's also just say that maybe for this particular report you're doing, your client wants you to do an REO addenda with 3 listings in it. So I can just take these 3 listings, drag them up to REO listings, drop them on, and then Spark will convert those into REO listings, and it will load those into the REO addenda in your report. And if the REO addenda doesn't already exist, it will create that for you in your report within ACI. Okay, so now I've got my grid loaded in. I'm pretty happy with that. I'm going to go ahead and go to, let's just do the cost data now. So I'm going to run the cost data on my subject. So I'm going to import my subject info from the grid that I just did. It brings it in. Now, really, all I have to do is enter in the quality of the dwelling. And now I can optionally also add in the parking items if I want to. And Spark highlighted those in red in this case because it knows from the MLS and public records data that there is an attached garage. It just doesn't know how big it is or what the quality is. And that's it. I can just go hit get cost data now. Spark's going to go grab that cost data from dwelling cost and fill it all in, which you can see it just did. And then you can also, if you want to, just go ahead and put in your effective wage. Let's just say it's 14 for the purposes of this. Spark will calculate everything. You saw the number updated here. And now let's also go ahead and let's just say you need help with your opinion of site value and you want to use the allocation method. So I'm going to click this plus button again, and it says site value, and I'm going to click import properties from Spark Grid. Now there's 3 ways of getting site value and that Spark can help with: vacant land, site extraction, and allocation. So it says, do you have vacant land sales? Let's just say no. And it says, do you want to perform site extraction? And I'm going to say no to that, which means it's going to default to the 3rd method, which is allocation. And a lot of appraisers use allocation, just it's kind of a quick and dirty method to use. And I said dirty there, but it doesn't work great in my particular market because of how my assessor does things. But for the most part, in most areas of the country that I've used it in or seen it in, it does work really well. So I would encourage all of you to check it out. And then you just hit import and done. And so I just chose for Spark to run allocation on all the closed sales in my sales grid. And then I can just go and drag this around to wherever I want it to be. Let's say I want to place most weight on comp 3. I would just put that up here right around the dots for comp 3. And it's saying based on that, my opinion of site value is 54,000. I go back over to the cost approach. It loaded in that 54,000 right there in my site value. It updated the final number, and now I'm good. So again, I know some of that may not have made sense, but we'll dive deeper into that as we get further into this. But for now, let's go ahead and do market analysis. I'm going to load in my competing properties, and that was this file right here. You just drag it up and drop it on that plus sign. And then I'm going to do the same thing for neighborhood properties. And remember, neighborhood is the bigger set of data, or at least for most appraisers. And that's the one, whatever you load there is what Spark's going to use to calculate your low, high, and predominant price and age. So now I've got that all loaded in. I just hit next. And whoops, let's switch over to and by default, this is what you're going to look at. So you've got your 1004MC here. You have your low, high, and predominant that goes at the top of page 1. For price and age, I've got my numbers that go at the top of page 2, and of course I have my 1004MC. So at this point, I'm pretty much done. Unless I want to take advantage of all the analyses I can do inside of Spark, then I'm pretty much done. And if I do want to take advantage of those analyses, I can just go through here and check these boxes however I want. Let's just go ahead and do it here. And stable, we'll just call that stable, yes, and then foreclosures, we'll say no. I'm just going to mark stable for the rest of these. And then we can do that for also for the 1-unit housing trend. So it shows me the days on market. I can say, yes, that's under 3 months. I'll just call that a shortage, and then we'll call that increasing. So I'm pretty much done now. And so I can hit export and then report data. And before I do that, though, I want to show you one last thing. We added this feature a couple weeks ago, which is apply time adjustments. So I can click that button, and I can say Spark will show me how much things are going up or down based on how you, the appraiser, or in this case, how I like to analyze my market. And so let's just say I want to say, yes, things are going up at 1% a month. So I do that. Spark will do the calculations for me. I can customize it based on a few things down here, and then I hit done. And now, when I'm all set, I hit report data. And so at this point, basically what Spark is doing is it is packaging all that information up into a file that we can then go load into ACI. And so that's what we're going to do now. So now that file is downloading and I'm done. So now I can just pop over into ACI. I've already got a report ready to load into. Now, normally you would have your report here that you want to actually load the data into. I just loaded up a completely blank report. So everything you're about to see Spark load in is from or everything you're about to see go into this report, I should say, is directly from Spark. So you go to eServices, number 10 here, which is import analysis data, and then you go to Spark. And then ACI is going to pop open with a window, and it's going to ask you where that file is. And this is the one that I just got, so I click it, and then I click Open. And then ACI is going to pop open with one more window, and it's going to ask you, here, let me drag it down here. So it's going to ask you, do you want to overwrite the existing fields or merge into empty fields only? And this is important if you use templates and you don't already have comps in the report, you just have basically an empty report with some maybe pre-canned things in there, you probably don't want Spark to overwrite your pre-canned things. So in that case, you would choose merge into empty fields only. Just be careful because it might appear that Spark didn't load things in that you wanted to, but that would only do that if you happen to have something already typed into that field. So if you already had anything at all, even a space bar in a field, then ACI will not allow Spark to load data into that field. And then if you basically start from copy files, that's what I call them, where you start from a report that you did recently for maybe a similar client or in the similar area that already has comps in it, then you probably want to overwrite all the old data with the new data. So you would choose this option. In this case, since I'm loading into a completely blank report, it doesn't matter. All right, and so there we go, it's done. And now basically everything you see is something that Spark loaded into the report. So you can see we've got some of page 1 filled out there, the checkboxes that I chose in Spark here, the low, high, and predominant price and age. And keep in mind, something that's important to note here is we are firm believers that the appraiser is the one who needs to make the decision about what your market's doing. So all the things that involve your opinion, the Spark will not automatically calculate those. So Spark will never automatically calculate these checkboxes for you. Spark will present you the data based on how you want to analyze it, but then it will leave it up to you to make the decision on what your market's doing. So you do have to check the boxes either in Spark, or you can leave them blank in Spark and just check them in your report like you're used to doing. Okay, and then some of the information down here in the improvement section is there. Now I'm going to go ahead and go over to page 2 here. So you can see the top of page 2 numbers there. We've got the grid really well filled out here. And one thing to note here, I used in this demo I'm doing, I used a profile in Spark that loads everything in. And I do want everyone to note here, the first time you use Spark, it is not going to load in anything for location, quality, condition, or functional utility. So those 4 lines will be blank because Spark doesn't have any data for those. The reason for these demos I have it filled out here is because I just want to show you that Spark can load those in if you want it to. You can just type in defaults. So when I use Spark for my own purposes as an appraiser, I actually leave those lines blank because I want to go in there myself and manually type those Q and C ratings and location and everything in myself. But if you do want to have defaults set to go in there, then you can set that up in Spark to load those in with defaults like I had here. All right, let's go ahead and scroll down here. So the prior transfer history is filled out. We've got those checkboxes marked. We've got the prior transfer history information here. And now here, I can either have Spark load in comments regarding my transfer history either here or on a separate text addenda. And the majority of appraisers use that separate text addenda. So I will show you that. But just to let you know, if you don't like that, you can have Spark load in those comments right here. And what I mean by that is, let's say your subject transferred 3 times in the past 3 years, then it would load in the comments for all 3 of those transfers here, which should save you quite a bit of time. And the same with the comps. If you had comp 2, for example, let's say it transferred twice in the past 12 months, then it would load in all those comments here as well. But for now, that's on that separate text addenda, so I'll show you that as we get there. And then the cost approach. So we use whoops, let me scroll down here. It knows we use the allocation method, so it puts in that comment there, saying that's what the appraiser used. Got my quality rating, an explanation of what that quality 3.5 means, everything else filled out in there. And of course, you can, once it's in your report, you can customize anything. So if there's anything you want to change, you can go and change it, like your depreciation amount or whatever it is. Now let's go ahead and go on down to the 1004MC. So you can see that's filled out here. It used the checkboxes that I marked when I was in Spark. Got my comments in there. And again, these are all customizable, and I'll show you, we'll get into how you can kind of customize all that. Let's go ahead and go down to, now if you'll remember, we had Spark load in 3 listings into the REO addenda. So here is that REO addenda with the information for those 3 listings filled in. And let's see, what else do we got here? Charts. So of course there's charts from the market analysis, and you have control over this. So if you don't want any charts, you can turn them off. If you want more charts, you can put more in. If you don't like these charts, you can customize them completely. And you can see you can either do scatter plots or bar charts or line charts. And you can do it over any period of time from 6 months up to 10 years. You kind of have full control over that. So you will want to take a little bit of time the first time you go in and use Spark to kind of customize it so that it will load things in the way you want to. And we find that the appraisers that take that little extra bit of time in the beginning save a lot of time every report after that, because they don't have to go in and tweak things every single time because it's already set up the way they like it. So I'd encourage you to do that. And as we get into this, I'm also going to show you how you can use the built-in help within Spark, or also you can just contact us and we're happy to help you out as well if you're having any struggles, loading things in the way you want it to go. So all right, let's go ahead and skip past that. Oh, and by the way, comments. So you can either have comments load in right next to your charts or not at all. We found lately that a lot of clients, lenders prefer to have the comments load in next to the chart rather than having those comments on a separate addenda. That way they don't have to scroll up and down between multiple pages. It's just all right there next to the chart. Okay, and then here's that text addenda I was talking about. And you can see in this case, the subject in the past 36 months, it actually did transfer 2 times. And so there are the comments for both of those transfers right there. And then the comps, it has the 12-month prior transfer history for those, and it's all customizable. So if you want to go a different time frame for your subject or comps, you can customize that. But you can see, for example, here, comp 1, it transferred once in the past 12 months. Comp 2, it did transfer twice in the past 12 months, and all those comments are in there. All right, so that pretty much covers it for exactly what we're going to load into your report. Now, I'm going to show you a couple other things, and then we're going to really dive into all the different things you can do in Spark. And what I'm going to show you now is when you're in Spark, you may have noticed that when I hit export, I hit report data to get the information to load into ACI, but you can also hit work file PDFs, which I just did. And what that's going to do is it's going to create a folder on your computer that has all your digital work file information from Spark. So it's going to have all the MLS and public records data for all of your subject and comps. It's going to have all the market analysis data, the charts, the comments, the regression analysis showing how much things are going up or down, your site value calculations, your cost approach, all that stuff will be in there. And I'm just going to show you briefly some of the information. So that's this folder. It just downloaded. So I just click that, and then it just went to my other monitor. So here's that. And essentially now I have all these documents from Spark, and these are all something you can save, and they are now basically a part of your digital work file. So you might want to drag them to you. A lot of appraisers keep a folder on their computer for each report, so you might just want to drag this folder over into that one so you always have it. And so site value, if I open that up, that's basically going to give us this. Let me zoom out a little bit here. So what it is it tells you how you arrived at your opinion of site value using Spark. And so it gives you the same little widget that you saw, this little chart, and it gives you all the calculations, tells you what the allocation was. Down here, it actually tells you how we arrived at the allocation numbers, and then comments here regarding how everything was calculated as well, in case you're ever unsure, or if you ever had to just defend yourself in front of the board or in court or anything, all the information is here. So I'm not going to run through every single document here, but I do want to show you a couple. And then the property report, this is kind of a big one, so I am going to show you this one. So let's take a look here. Oh, and you know what? Something I wanted to show you while we were in ACI that I forgot to show you. Back on the grid, let's go to the sales grid. I forgot to show you. So Spark did load in the time adjustments based on how I chose a 1% per month. And so it did load those in. And by the way, you can also set there's a setting in there, so you can say, you know what, if the property transferred in the past 60 days, 90 days, whatever, don't put any adjustment, and then so Spark would have just put a 0 then in that case, if that's the setting you choose. And you can also choose for Spark to round a certain way, or to base the time adjustment on either the sale date or the contract date. And by default, it does use the contract date, but you can just, that's a little checkbox you can swap when you're in there. Okay, so there are the time adjustments. Now let's go ahead and go back into this document. And so after you scroll past the map page here, basically this first real page here, it's a one-page printout of your subject property that has all of the MLS and all the public records data for your subject all on one page. So you've got the basics of your property, you have the MLS listing characteristics, comments from the agent, you've got the property characteristics, both from MLS and public records. And you can see we even highlight in red when there's a discrepancy between MLS and public records. So in this case, patios, MLS said there were none, and public records says there's a covered patio. If I continue to scroll down, I've got the complete transfer history here, the complete mortgage finance history, and the listing history. So everything's all on one page for each of your properties. And so that was the subject. And then we also can load in maps into your work file if you want them for your subject. And then starting on the next page, it's actually the complete, it's the calculations of how Spark arrived at your time adjustments for each of your comps. So it lets you know you chose to use 1% per month. It breaks it down and calculates it based on what you chose and all your settings, and it basically tells you how it arrived at your adjustment. So that's all there for you. And then starting on the next page, it's essentially the same thing I just showed you for your subject, but for every single comp you loaded in. So here's comp 1, all the MLS and public records data all on one page for that property, and then comp 2 and 3 and so on. So that's that. And then I think for now, let's not get into any more of those work file documents. You'll want to take some time and look at these so you can see exactly what Spark's giving you. But you've got the market conditions, which is all the charts and regression information, how Spark arrived at all that, your 1004MC. The calculations page, that has all the formulas for exactly how everything was arrived at, including references to the Fannie Mae selling guide, showing that, you know, we're complying with all that. The cost data report, it's pretty much exactly what it says. It's a breakdown of all the cost data information, how we ran the cost approach. Discrepancy report just shows you all the discrepancies between MLS and public records for each property and which one Spark loaded into your grid based on what you chose. And I'll get into that here in a minute as well. Okay, so let's go ahead and be done with the work file for now. And let's go ahead and run through Spark, kind of giving you some more detailed information. So I'm going to start with the grid, and then we're going to go through from there. So basically, the things that are probably going to strike you about the grid here, probably the thing that stands out the most are the items in red that you're not used to seeing in a grid. So what those are, and just like I told you in the digital work file, those are where you have discrepancies between MLS and public records. So I can just hover my mouse here over where it shows 1692 in red. Spark will show me MLS says 1692, public record says 1417. So I can quickly see what the discrepancy is. For me in my market, this would tell me this property probably has an unpermitted addition, and I can decide whatever I want to do with that. I'll probably just leave that as 1692, but I can just swap that over to 1417 if I want to. So if you want to, you just click that, and you can see Spark just changed that over to 1417. And basically, the way it works in the grid here in Spark, we wanted to make it kind of as easy and intuitive to use and customize as possible. So essentially, everything that you see in blue in Spark is something you can either click on to customize it or to dive deeper into it. So if I want to, for example, tell Spark that, you know what, I always want you to default to public records when it comes to site size. That's a pretty common one for appraisers. Appraisers everywhere pretty much always want to use public records as the data source default for site size. So you just click where it says site in blue, it brings up this screen, and then for data source preference, you just tell Spark what you want to use. And I say, you know what, I want to use public records, always by default, hit save changes, and then take me back. And now Spark, going forward for every future report until I change it again, is going to use the site size from public records as my default. Now it'll still show me in red if I want it to when there's a discrepancy, or I can turn that off as well. But it will default to my preference, which in this case is public records. And then can do the same thing for GLA or basement or garage or whatever it is you prefer, you can just default to that. And that's kind of how that works. And then the same thing applies to anything else you want to customize. So for example, you load this up for the first time and you're like, you know what, I don't ever put parcel number on that bottom line of the grid. And a lot of times these bottom 3 lines of the grid, almost all appraisers are going to want to customize those from what Spark puts in by default. So you just click on whatever it is you want to change and change it. So if you don't want parcel number on that bottom line, you just click it and then you change that to whatever feature you want to load there. Or if you don't want to load anything in, just leave it blank to do whatever you want with once it's in your report. You just click none. And then when you hit save changes and then take me back, then Spark will update that. And now it's loading that line in as blank. And the same thing applies to, let's say you don't like my abbreviations for heating cooling. You just click where it says heating cooling. You find whatever the abbreviation is that you want to change, like FWA, there's a lot of appraisers that use FAU or central heat or whatever it is. You change that, you hit save changes, and then take me back. And now Spark is going to use that going forward into all your reports until you change it again. And by the way, back on that heating cooling screen, I just want to let you know that Spark is customized significantly for each and every different market or for each and every different MLS. So what you're seeing here are the heating and cooling options in Phoenix, and you can see we don't have very many. But if you're, especially you appraisers up in the Northeast, you have a ton of heating options, then this list is going to be much longer. And so you can say, baseboard and steam and hot water and all that stuff will be in here. And you can say, basically, when the agent says wall heat, whatever you type in here is what Spark's going to put in. That's kind of how it works. And then you can also set in defaults. So, if the agent leaves it blank and doesn't put in heating, or if they say other, you can have Spark put in something else if you want to. And you can also choose to completely override whatever the listing says with your own thing. And that's what this is here, where it says override. I would just be careful with that, because that basically means that Spark will never look at what the agent says or what the listing says. It'll only load in what you tell it here to put in by default. All right, so let's go ahead and go back to the grid here. A couple other things, and then we'll move on to the cost data. But basically, the prior transfer history. So by default, you can see Spark's going to use 36 months back for your subject, 12 months back for your comps. If you want to, you can actually in Spark go and look at the transfer history. So you just click these little magnifying glasses. Spark will show you, here's your current sale, February 28th, 2019. That's the one in blue. And then here's the prior transfer that Spark's going to load in because it took place within the past 12 months. And there's a green checkbox there letting you know. And if you want to, you can include any other sale. So like if I wanted to load in this one from 2016, I just click it. Now Spark put a checkbox there letting me know it's going to load that transfer into my report. And if you don't want it, you just turn it off, just like that. All right, so that's how that works. And other quick little things you might care about, you can drag these around real easy, move your comps around if you want to change the position. You can also have Spark reorder the comps. You can order them by date, by proximity to the subject, by GLA, by price, whatever it is, you can have Spark do that. That's all, since that doesn't apply to a specific row, so you wouldn't click one of these because that's not row related. That governs basically your entire grid. That's up here in our general settings. So you can click this gear icon and go to the general grid settings, and that's where you customize that kind of thing. So I would check that out as well once you're into using Spark. All right, so let's go ahead now. Oh, you know what? A couple other things I just thought of. When you're loading in your grid, let's say you loaded in I loaded in 8 comps here, but let's say you realize, you know what, I need to load in 2 more. Before I load this into my ACI report, I do want to go ahead and add in 2 more. Then you just click this plus button right here above where it says sales grid, and Spark will pop this open and you can upload more listings from your MLS. And so that's what that's for right there. And then same thing with rentals. If you want to load in some rentals, you just click this little plus sign, upload listings you got from your MLS for your rentals right there. Okay, so I think that pretty much covers what I wanted to get into. The only other thing I'd say is if you do get into Spark and you realize, oh, you know what, I chose 1004, but this is actually for a 2055, that's okay. It doesn't matter where you are in Spark. You just click that and you can change it to whatever other form you might want to use. So I can choose 2055 there, and then Spark will automatically load this into your 2055. And if you ever have a weird issue where it looks like the data from Spark is not going into ACI correctly, that's usually what the problem is the form was not chosen correctly in Spark. You might have left it as your default, and a lot of appraisers have Spark default to 1004. But then if you're loading it into 2055 or a 1073 or whatever it is, then it won't be able to load in correctly because the forms don't match. So just make sure this form here matches the actual form you're loading into in ACI. Okay, so now let's go ahead and swap over to cost data. All right, so here we're on the cost data screen. Now, a couple things to get into here. It's pretty straightforward. Our partner for cost data, I should say, is dwelling costs. So that's where our cost data comes from. And you just want to make sure you're using the quality ratings system correctly for dwelling costs, because their quality rating system might be different than what you're used to. For example, if you use Marshall and Swift or Craftsman, the buildingcost.net website, RS Means, whatever it is, their dwelling cost is a little bit different. So you just want to make sure that you're familiar with it. And we do have appraisers that have used this. Oh, sorry, one second. So Kyle's telling me I should answer a question. Hang on one second. It's related to what we're talking about. Okay, so we do have a question. It says, I've been using Marshall and Swift. Is dwelling cost the only cost data provider you use? Okay, good question. So yes, out of those main cost data providers that appraisers use, we talked about Marshall and Swift, dwelling cost, and Craftsman. Dwelling cost is the only cost data provider that we have, although I will tell you that we have had appraisers that were a little reluctant to use dwelling cost, but once they actually got into it, they really liked it. It's actually a bit easier and quicker to use once you know how to use it. And from everything they've been telling us, it's just as accurate. The only thing you want to be careful of, again, is that quality rating system. So the only times we've ever had issues where appraisers thought the numbers were either too high or too low from dwelling cost was because they were not using the quality number correctly. So I would just encourage all of you to go check that out. And so I can actually hover my mouse over this little eye here, and it will show me the basic quality rating system. But on top of that, what I would encourage all of you to do when you use this is right here where it says click here for detailed quality explanation, do that, click that. It's going to take you to the dwelling cost quality rating page. And there's two main things you want to pay attention to. First is their general rules of thumb right there. And then two is take a look at the actual quality levels that they use. So these are the base levels, and they go from 1 to 8. So you can see, and they have pictures showing you, like, here's what a quality level 3 looks like. And you can see different examples of what that would look like. And the same, so quality level 4 and what that would look like. So what you do basically, I don't want to get too deep into this and waste your time because you probably want to go do this on your own, but you pick the base level that your home is, and then so in this case, let's just say it's a 3, and then you go in and you add on points on top of that 3 for things that are above and beyond for that basic quality rating. So if you have, for example, really great flooring and cabinets and countertops for this level of home, then you can add anywhere from 1 to 3 points for the flooring and 1 to 3 points for the cabinets and countertops. So what that means is if I started at 3, I could actually add a whole other 3 points, which would make it 3.3. And then on top of that 3.3, I could add up to another 3 points, which would make it 3.6, up to a max of 3.6. And so that's when you go back into Spark here, that's this number right here. And so, and at any time, if this number is looking wrong, you're thinking, oh, I used the wrong quality rating, then you just go in and update it. And so let's just say, oh, you know what? I should have used a 4.5 instead of a 3.5. You just type it in, you see it grays it out to let you know the quality results are, I'm sorry, the cost results are no longer accurate. Then you just hit get cost data again to update them. Then Spark reaches out to dwelling cost, pulls in the information, and now everything's updated. So there we go. All right, so that's the way that works. And you can use as much or as little of this as you want. So you can go in and add in your patios, your porches, your swimming pool if you've got a swimming pool if you want to, and your garages, your parking information, and then the physical depreciation, external and functional. And I just want to touch on this briefly. So you can use the effective age here if you want to. And basically what happens is you type in the effective age, and then all Spark does is it uses the basic straight line or age life method where it takes the number you type in and divided by the full lifespan of the property. So in this case, I have the full lifespan set to 65, but you can make that any number you want to. So it just does 14 divided by 65, and it gives you the depreciation percent. So you have two options here. You can either use that and let Spark calculate it based on how you want it to, or you can just type in your own physical depreciation number, or you can just leave it blank and just do it yourself once you're in ACI. However you want to do it, that's totally fine. Okay, so that's basically how that works. You use it as much as little as you want. The only thing you absolutely have to have filled out in order for this to work are these top 6 lines, everything from quality up. That's the only part you absolutely have to fill out for this to work. So you fill in those 6 lines and then you hit get cost data and it'll work. Okay, so now I'm going to get into a little bit the site value tool. We're not going to get too deep into it because we could spend a whole training session on that if we wanted to get really deep into site extraction. But basically what we did when we were doing our example is we went in and Spark ran the allocation method, which is where it reached out, it got the land value from your county assessor and the fully improved value from your assessor and did that math to get the actual allocation percent. So it just did land value divided by fully improved value, and that's the allocation percent. So it did that for all 7 of these comps that I was using. And then it applied that percentage to the actual sale price of the property. And if you want to ever see the math, you just click where it says show data here, and then Spark will actually show you the math. So you can see the allocation percent, your sale price, what that means as far as what the actual site value is from allocation for each of those properties. And then basically it plots those points here, and those are the blue dots. And I want to get into the difference between the blue dots and the red dots here briefly. So the blue dots are those actual allocation numbers for each of those sites. The red dots are after that site value, the blue dot, has been adjusted to the size, the site size for your subject. So in this case, like let's take a look at comp 1, for example. The red dot is above the blue dot. That means my subject was slightly bigger in this case than comp 1. And so Spark adjusted the site value for comp 1 up to the size of my subject. And all the math is there and it all goes into your work file. And you can click on show data and it shows you that as well here. But basically it did that math, and so that red dot is the adjusted site value. And so you can see for comp 2, that property was actually a slightly larger than my subject. So the red dot's a little bit below the blue dot. And then in this case, like comp 5, it was a big difference. And so typically what you'd want to do here is you'd want to line this up, your opinion of site value, with the property you think most represents. You basically treat it like you treat when you're reconciling your sales grid. You place most weight on whatever comps you want to place most weight on for whatever reason you deem to be best. But in most cases, when these red dots and blue dots are really close together, then that means they are typically more like your subject. And so you might want to place more weight on those. These ones where they're really far apart, you probably want to place a little less weight on those, unless there's some other factor to consider, like maybe these have identical, sloping lots to your subject, and so maybe you do want to place a little bit more weight on those, even though they're a different size. But anyways, hopefully you get the point there. You do how you approach it however you want to, placing most weight on whatever properties you want, and then you line up right there with what you want to call your opinion of site value. And if this was extraction, and by the way it works with extraction is, I showed you how I chose allocation, but in Spark, if you choose to run extraction, then it will actually run the cost approach on every one of your comps that you choose, anywhere from 1 to up to 12, and it will run the cost approach on those comps. So it will extract out the site value based on the cost data and the sale price. And so you'll have down at the bottom for each of those properties, you'll actually have a site value. And then it's also going to give you a chart just like this, but instead of saying allocation at the top, it'll say extraction. So then you can go and decide what your opinion of value is for the site based on extraction. So anyways, that's kind of the way that works. I'm not going to get too much further into that though. I think now we're going to go ahead and transition over to the market analysis. All right, so this is kind of where I like to, this is my favorite part of Spark basically, is the way the market analysis works, because it's really customizable. You can set up Spark to analyze your market however you want to. And I could go on forever about this, kind of like the site value tool in Spark, but I do want to get into this a little bit to show you kind of how cool it is here. So first of all, when you get into this, all you have to do is you can hit export and send your data over into ACI, and you don't have to do any of the stuff I'm about to show you if you don't care about it. So if you don't care about using any of the special or the cool little market analysis stuff we can do, and you can customize all that, then don't worry about it. Don't waste your time. Just hit export, send it all over into ACI, and don't worry about all the stuff I'm about to say here. But if you do, then keep watching because I think some of the stuff you might really like here. So first, I see we have another question, and it looks like you're basically asking, how did I get this data? Like, how did I do the searches in MLS? So let's go ahead and show you that. So I'm going to show you my MLS. So this is the MLS in the Phoenix market. So essentially what I did to get all of my data that I loaded into Spark, and if you'll remember, when I first started up Spark, here, let me just show you. When I first started up Spark, I told it my effective date, and then I basically took this file and I drag and drop it right there. And then I also, for the market analysis, I dragged and dropped these two files up there. So basically what these files are files I got from my MLS that I did the searches for. So let me show you. Let's go into MLS. So the first thing I do, and by the way, in Spark, you can do this in any order and in any combination you want. So if you don't like the way I'm doing it, you want to do it in a different order, that's absolutely fine. You don't have to do it like this at all. In fact, when you're in Spark, you can see up in the top left, it shows you the three sides of Spark. There's the grid side that you usually start on, there's the market analysis side, and there's the cost data side. You can do one side, two sides, or all three sides, or any combination. So if I just want to do my grid, I can just do the grid, hit export, send it over into ACI. Then maybe the next day come in and do my cost approach and hit export and send that over. It doesn't matter. You do it how you want to and in any order. Okay, so I'm digressing here. Let's get back over into MLS. All right, so um, here are my searches. And the way I do it is I get a request to do an appraisal. I accept it. I go in and I do my research. And when I'm doing my research, basically, I define my neighborhood boundaries, like you can see I did here. And what I'll do is I'll turn off all my parameters. So there we go. I'm only looking at single family detached homes. I've turned off all other parameters, and then I would go and export those. And so basically I would, in my MLS, I click this and then I click export. In your MLS, it could be something totally different. And I'm also going to show you where Spark gives you instructions on exactly how to do this in your MLS at the end here. But you export that and Spark gives you that file. And that was this first file I got right here called custom export. And then I went and I set parameters. And so this is basically right now, it's all the single family homes in my defined neighborhood boundaries. And that's what I had Spark use to calculate my low, high, and predominant on page 1. And then I go in here and I set parameters like year built, stories, lot size, and GLA. And if you don't define your competing properties that way, that's totally fine. You do it however you want to. Maybe it's by room count, however you do it in your MLS, that's totally fine. So I defined those and I narrowed it down to these properties. And by the way, I know you're seeing I have like 300 results, or before I had 1,200 results. And it's so much because I went back and I'm actually getting 5 years worth of data. And you don't have to do that. You can just get 1 year, 2 years, however far back you want. I would encourage you at least get 1 year. So at least if you're doing a 1004 MC, it can fill it out accurately, but you can also get up to 10 years. Okay, so I got that. Now I got my competing properties, and then I go and hit export or download, and that gave me this file, the one called custom export 1. Then what I did is I went into those competing properties and I narrowed it down by putting a checkbox next to just the ones I want to load into my grid. And you can see I chose 12 here. So I chose those 12 properties, I hit export, and then I loaded those into, and then I exported those as a file, and that was this file here called custom export 2. And so that was the file I used when I was, so here when I'm loading data into my grid for add comparables, I just take this file, drag and drop it right there. And that's how I loaded that data into Spark for my comps. So I know right now we're supposed to be talking about market analysis, so I got sidetracked there, but I just wanted to show you again how we got that data and how you get it into Spark. And by the way, while we're right here, if your subject has not been listed, then you don't have a listing for it, obviously. And by the way, anytime a property has been listed, whether it's your subject or your comps, you want to get that listing from your MLS, export it just like I showed you, and drag and drop it into Spark. That way we have as much data as possible. If you just click type here, then Spark will only have access to the public records. So make sure you get your listing and you drag and drop it on. And we'll also get into, if you use a different internet browser, you might not be able to drag and drop, so I'll show you how to do that if you're using Internet Explorer or Microsoft Edge. Okay, so if you're, just to show you while we're here, if your subject hasn't been listed, you just click type, and then you tell it what county you're in. you can either type in the parcel ID or click this to change it to address, and then type in the address, and you hit get data. And then Spark will go grab that and load it in. So it just got the public records and loaded that in. All right, so let's be done with that, and let's get back to what I was originally showing you, which is the market analysis here. So back on Spark, when you do your market analysis, you then load those files, your big one for your neighborhood properties, and that's what Spark will use for the low-high predominant. I load that in there, and then custom export one, that was my competing properties. And so that's what I loaded into there. And by the way, these files may be named something slightly different. Just remember, for you, you may type in a name and name them yourself. Some appraisers name it like the report number plus comps, or report number then competing, or maybe the subject address competing, or however you want to do it. That's fine. And just remember, neighborhood is what Spark will use for low-high predominant. Competing is what Spark will use for your 1004MC. So if you're one of those people who like to use the same data for both, you just use that same file and load it into both. That's totally fine. Okay, so market analysis. First thing I want to show you, just like I talked about on the grid, if it's something that's in blue, you click it to either customize it or dive deeper. So if you think, you know what, this 1.169 million high for price, that seems way too high for this area to me, all you do is you click it. Spark will show you all the data related to how it got low, high predominant, and then I can click on, let's say, sold price, and sort those low to high or high to low. And then you can see 1.169 million right there. Now I have a couple options here. I can just say, okay, fine, I see that, it looks like a legit sale, I just want to leave it alone and be done. I can just hit go back. Or if you're thinking, you know what, I don't actually want to include that sale, I don't think it's accurate to include it, you right click it and you choose remove. And then Spark will remove that permanently from all of the data for neighborhood. So it won't use it in any of the calculations anywhere. Or your third option would be, maybe, as we all know, sometimes there's a mistake in the listing, and maybe it was actually a sale for 169,000 instead of 1.169 million. And so all you do is you click it and you type in 169, and then when you hit go back, Spark will update everything everywhere to match that. So now my high is 725, which is the second highest sale there, and that sale is still in there. It's just in there as 169 now. Or I could have just chosen to remove it. And the same thing applies in your MC. If you're thinking, you know what, I don't really think there were 8 active listings in this time period, the 0 to 3. All you do is you click that 8. Spark shows you those 8 properties, and you can actually go and look at the actual listing date and pending date and verify for yourself that you can trust it and that it's doing it correctly. All right, so let's go ahead and get into the actual fun part, which is the market analysis here. So let me show you how we built this, basically. When you're in the 1004MC, and by the way, we'll get into, we built another tool if you don't want to use the MC, but basically the way this works is, when you're looking at sale price, for example, which is the most common one appraisers really spend time on analyzing, is sale price. You're looking at sale price, you got these 3 numbers in the MC. We all know that a lot of times those 3 numbers don't really do a good job of painting the picture of what your market's actually doing. So you want to analyze the market in some other way, or however you want to analyze it. So what Spark does is, when you hover over these checkboxes to make your decision about what the market's doing, Spark shows you the analyses that you want to see. So what you're seeing right now in those where it says trend preview, those are the 4 that I like to see when I'm making my decision on what the market's doing. But yours might be totally different. You can set it up however you want. And basically the way it works is, as you go through and hover your mouse over these, Spark shows you exactly how you told it you want to analyze your market. And what that means is, you can actually really quickly but really accurately decide what your trends are, and then all that data is also going to go into your digital work file. So if you ever had to support yourself down the road, like, how did you decide that really was increasing? Or maybe it doesn't match these 3 numbers in the MC. How did you decide that? It's because you had all this data, and then all that data goes into your work file, so you can go and show them if you ever needed to. Okay, so let me show you how it works. Basically, whatever row of the MC, or whatever feature of your market that you want to analyze or customize the analysis for, you just click on it. So let's just go ahead and customize sale price. I click those words, and then Spark takes me to this screen where I can really go in and customize it. Now, the first thing to be aware of is that the analyses, the charts, and the comments are all intertwined. They all, basically the analysis you create also creates the chart, and that also creates the comments, but you do have control over it. So let me show you what I mean by that. Basically, you can see that when I hover over this blue card right here that says there's this big 1.0%, you can see up above that sentence highlights in orange, and it says an analysis was performed on 51 properties over the past 12 months. The sales within this group had a median sale price per square foot of 168.41. And so that's nice. It put in that comment based on this analysis. And this analysis is also, you can see it's blue. That's these blue dots here in this chart. So if I want to change this, and maybe I don't like scatter plots, maybe I want to make this a bar chart. I can go and say I want a monthly bar chart, and then Spark will make it a monthly bar chart. And remember, like we said, if it's in blue, you can either click it to customize it or dive deeper. So I'll click it again and change it to maybe a quarterly bar chart. And I can also click this 12 months, and I can change that to, maybe I want to do a 3-year analysis. And so there I have a 3-year analysis by quarter, and I can see how much things are going up or down. And I can even hover over these bars and look at them. And just like I told you, if something looks weird or wrong, you just click it. So if I'm thinking, you know what, this bar seems a little bit high, you just click it. Spark shows you the data that makes up that bar, and you can go in and actually look at it. If you want to remove something, you just right click and remove, or you can type over it if there's actually a mistake in there. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and change this back to a 12-month analysis though, and show you more about how you can customize this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of this whole analysis I have going on over here to the right. Let's just get rid of it. Let's say you don't like that at all. So now I've just got this to deal with. And let's also say that you don't like price per square foot, but that's currently what's being analyzed. All you do is you click the card that you want to customize. So right now, this card tells me it's analyzing competing data using median sale price per square foot. I just click that, and now I can change the analysis entirely. So it flips it over and it shows me all the different things I can customize. So if instead of analyzing competing data, I want to analyze my broader neighborhood, or Spark also, I don't know if you noticed, but Spark lets you analyze any other set of data as well. We call that the alternative, but you can upload an entire zip code, a city, a town, whatever it is you want. You can go and analyze and compare that as well. So I'm going to go ahead and stick with competing here. But median price per square foot, let's go ahead and change that. I could choose average price, median price, any of these things you see in here. I'm just going to go ahead and go with median price. And then I can change the trend line. So if I just want a regular linear trend line, I can do that. And now let's say I also want to customize the comments. So we already looked at this comment up here. It just says the appraiser performed this quarterly analysis on those properties. It was 12 months. Median sale price is 250. But let's say I also want to show my client what the low and the high is. You just click that checkbox that says low high, and now Spark adds that in. So now it says median sale price of 250 with a low of 206 and a high of 296.5. But let's also say you want to show them the regression result. And what the regression result is, and it kind of shows you right here, is the amount. We use regression to decide how much things are actually going up or down. And by the way, all the regression information goes into your digital work file as well, if you ever needed to defend how we got to that number. But you click regression result under where it says including comments, and now it adds this sentence that says this analysis based on data group quarterly shows a change of plus 1.1% per month. So if you want your client to see that, you leave it in. If you don't, you just take it out. And then last, we have this comment about periods. And basically, when you're grouping data using the bar chart into months or quarters or years, those are periods. And so you can actually have Spark create comments about those periods. And so let me show you what I mean by that here. Right here, it just built this sentence that says quarterly, the median sale price was reported as, oldest to most recent, 240, 245, 255.6, and 269.9. So basically, you can show your client, yeah, things are increasing pretty steadily over here by looking at that quarterly chart. So not only can you show them the chart, but you can also have comments go into the report that kind of further highlight that. And last, when you're building all these charts, there's this checkbox right here that says include chart and report. So all of the charts that you see in Spark are going to go into your digital work file, but only the ones where you check this box right there will actually go into your report. So if you don't want your client to see that report, you just turn it off, and now it won't go to your client. You turn it on if you do. And now one last thing I want to show you because I think it's kind of cool is, well, let's go ahead and click on this neighborhood data and change that to match median sale price. So I'm just going to change that to median sale price so it matches. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to click where it says clone widget, and that basically makes an exact copy over here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you two more things you can do. Right here, I'm going to click this card where it says competing data median sale price, and I'm going to show you what this exclude means. Basically, I can go in and tell Spark to exclude REOs, short sales, or basically all distressed sales. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to click that, exclude REOs and short sales, and I'm going to go ahead and turn off the comments on, well, no, let's leave them on. And then I'm going to do that for my neighborhood data as well. So I'm going to click that. I'm going to change it to exclude REOs and short sales and click go back. And so now basically I can see if my numbers have changed but when I excluded those distressed sales. And in this case, they're identical actually. And that's because I probably have 0 REOs and short sales in this case. So that's why these numbers didn't change. But if you saw these numbers shoot way up or way down, then that would let you know that foreclosures and short sales are having an impact on your market. And so you need to obviously be aware of that and note it. So anyways, that's one way you can use this. Now another way, I'm going to go ahead and remove that chart altogether and click clone again. Another thing you could do is just change this to from 12 months to analyze 24. So now essentially, I've got this analysis on median sale price for 1 year, and then the identical analysis on median sale price going over 2 years. And now obviously I want to change this title because it's going over 24 months and it's using median sale price instead of price per square foot. So I do that, and obviously I can change this one as well. But you do that, you set it up how you want, and then basically once you have Spark set up to analyze data the way that you like, you just hit save layout, and then Spark will remember that going forward. And there's a whole bunch of stuff you can do here. Like I could go and clone this widget, make a third chart, and I can have this one go over 5 years if I want to. And I can have it do it by year. So now I have year 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 there. So basically the point is you go in, you set it up how you want, and then Spark will analyze data that way. And then I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that chart. And then basically, once you have it set up how you want, it will show up when you're going to hover over those checkboxes on the MC. And I'm going to show you that in just a sec here. The one last thing I wanted to show you while we're here is you can click where it says show data, and Spark will show you the chart and then show you also the actual data for each of those bars here, and along with the actual regression equation there. So you can kind of confirm things for yourself if you want to. Okay, so just keep in mind, you set it up so it's analyzing your market how you want to. You hit save layout right here, and Spark will remember that into the future, so you don't have to worry about going and changing it every single time. All right, so I'm going to hit go back. And now remember, we had 1.1%, 0.8, 0.8, and 0.5. And so basically now when I go back to my 1004MC, when I hover over these checkboxes, Spark shows me those exact numbers. And it's basically showing me exactly how I chose that I want to analyze my market. And it tells you right in those cards what data set it's analyzing and also what feature of your market it's analyzing. In this case, I just chose median sale price across the board. But I could have some of those be median sale price, some be average price, however you want to do it. You set it up that way. And basically you do that, you set it up for every row of the MC so Spark can go in there and show you the analyses the way you want to see it. Okay, I think I have gone on enough about all that. The only other thing I want to get into before we get into all the questions you guys have, and don't worry, we are going to get into those questions. I see we have a bunch, is I want to show you what we built in case you don't want to use the MC, the 1004 MC, or if your client doesn't want it, but you still want to show them that you are doing the job and you're analyzing your market. So we built this trend dashboard. And all you do, if you want to switch over to it, is you click this toggle switch. So I switch over, and now I've got this trend dashboard screen here. And basically, really all it is it's the exact same analyses you already were having Spark perform for the 1004MC, but without having to deal with all the gobbledygook of the MC. These 3 numbers in here for every row that you probably don't really care about. You know, you have a 6-month, a 3-month, and a 3-month. Basically, we just got rid of all that and let you have more control over what your client sees. So let me show you. All right, here. So first of all, you have all the access to all the same features that can be analyzed, price ratio, everything you have access to in the MC, absorption, number of listings, number of sales, all that stuff, days on market. You have access to all of it here, but basically you have more control. So if you decide, you know what, my client doesn't actually need to see the number of sales, then you can just turn it off. So I can click this X, and now that's not going to go to your client. So they're not going to see that. So you don't have to worry about that. And then if you think, you know what, so for sale price, and if you remember, these are those exact same four numbers I told you to look at, the 1.1, 0.8, 0.8, and zero point 0.5. Now let's say you have those four numbers there and that's all great, but maybe you think this is too much and it might confuse your client. Then you can control how much they see. So if you think I just want to show them maybe two numbers or one number, not all four, then you can go in and customize it. And so to do that, you just click where it says sale price. It's the exact same screen. The only difference is you use these check boxes here to turn on and off what your client's going to see. So now when I hit go back, then Spark is only going to show my client those two numbers that I wanted them to see. And it's kind of easy that way. And you can just actually also, while you're on this screen, you can click these little eyeball icons and Spark will show you the analysis there, just like when I hit show data on that other screen. Excuse me. Okay. So, and the last thing here to note is you have full control over it. So if you think, you know what, I'm in a market where distressed properties are going crazy, we're starting to get a whole bunch of foreclosures or whatever, then you can actually, that might be more important. You might not want it at the bottom. You can just drag it right up to the top and make it the number one thing you show your client if you want to. So again, just showing you how you kind of have more control over all of this. And you still can choose increasing, stable, declining if you want to. But the point is kind of, we got rid of the 1004 MC, all those numbers that probably don't mean a whole lot, and let you just show your client the actual numbers that they probably want to care about. Like in the case of sale price, we're analyzing 4/4 of data right here, but all we're showing is what your client really cares about, which is how much are things actually going up or down. That's really probably all your client cares about. They probably don't need to see all those individual numbers for each quarter. You can show it to them if you want to and include it in your comments and in the chart. But as far as this addenda, we're just showing them probably what they actually care about. And once you're done, when you hit export, instead of loading data into your MC, if you chose this option instead, then basically what you see on your screen right now, we would create an addenda, or Spark, I should say, would create an addenda in your report and load in basically this, basically a screenshot of this that you see right now. And so that's how that works. Okay, so now let's go ahead and get into any questions you guys have. I think I've pretty much covered everything I wanted to get into, and I know this is getting long, but let's go ahead and get your questions going. Okay, so first question, is there an add-on cost or fee for the cost approach? No, there's not. So everything that we just went through, everything in Spark is included in the price. And I also see that there is a question, what is the price? So let me go and show you here. Let's go over to the website. So this is sparkforappraisers.com. I know most of you on this webinar here, you have already signed up for your Spark account, but I just wanted to show you, if you go to this website, sparkforappraisers.com, you can click on pricing and go to ACI, and then you'll see the pricing here. So for unlimited use of Spark, cost data, everything is included, then it's $49 a month. If you want to pay per report, and I will tell you that basically this option to pay per report is less expensive if you do 16 or fewer reports per month. Once you get into doing 17 or more on average, then it's cheaper just to go with the unlimited. But yeah, if you do maybe like 5 reports a month, we would charge you $3 a report, so that would be $15 a month is what we would charge. And so yeah, your price ranges are from $12 to $48 a month in that case. And once you get up to 17 reports, it just does $49 a month because that would be less expensive. Okay, so let's see what other questions we have. What's the learning curve on this? How long until I'm up and running? All right, good question. So it does vary quite a bit. I will tell you, and this is now a good time to talk about the help options you have in Spark. So I will tell you that when you first go and use Spark for the first time, there is a walkthrough tutorial. We have found that if you do take the time to actually take advantage of the tutorial, the appraisers that do that have a much easier time getting through things and taking advantage of all the features within Spark. But if I know that you might not have time, you might just need to skip those because you're busy. We totally get that. So I guess to answer the question, before I get into how you can get help. To answer your question, usually on average, it takes appraisers 3 to 4 times using Spark before they really get comfortable with it and they start saving a lot of time. So I would give yourself probably 4 times before I would say you're fluent with it, or maybe not fluent, but much really familiar with it where you're actually saving time. And then I also just wanted to point out that you have a free trial as well when you first start using Spark. So you can use it on 12 reports for free before you have to pay for it. So definitely take advantage of that. Use it on those 12 reports. Make sure you're going to like it. We're confident you will with all the features we have in here, especially now that we've added the cost data and the site value tools. But yeah, if you get into it and you have any issues or you're feeling like the learning curve is just too much, and maybe you're having a hard time customizing your grid to load things in the way you want, or your charts, or whatever it is, just reach out to us, give us a call, and we're happy to help you out with any of those things. And also, what I wanted to point out while we're talking about this is the help options. So when you're in Spark, whatever screen you're on, you can click this gear icon and there's going to be a help option. You can click that, and then basically what Spark does is it knows what screen you're looking at, and so it's going to show you a bunch of topics related to the screen you're looking at, and then short little 2 to 4 minute videos on each of those topics where I'll show you how to, take advantage of this feature or that feature or how to do whatever it is. So check out this as well. And then while you're in that gear icon, we also have an FAQ page. So you can go in here, find a list of a whole bunch of questions you might have, like there's cost data questions, market analysis questions, find the thing you're interested in, click it, and then Spark will take you to that answer for that specific question. So there's also that you can take advantage of. But anytime you're in here, if you're just like, you know what, I don't have time to walk through the videos or whatever it is, just click the gear icon, click where it says contact us. Here's our contact information. Give us a call, shoot us an email, and we're more than happy to help you out. Also, if you have questions specific to the cost data, like I have a barn and how should I handle that with dwelling cost, those are questions you'd want to ask dwelling cost. And so you can click on contact us, and we have the dwelling cost contact information is here. So we'll take advantage of that as well. All right, let's see what other questions we got here. I think we already answered that. I'm technologically challenged. Will someone be able to help me? Yes, absolutely. We just covered that. Just you take advantage of the help features, the walkthrough tutorials, or just give us a call or shoot us an email. We're more than happy to help. Does my MLS need a special setup? Oh yeah, great question. And I meant to cover that more. So let me show you here. I'm going to go ahead and start up a fresh session of Spark here. So basically, when you get to a screen where it's time to upload your data, there's going to be a yellow button. Before you upload anything at all, there's this yellow button that says need help with file setup, click here. So in most MLSs, but not all, there is a little setup you have to do. So I would, everyone, regardless of what MLS you're in, I would definitely tell you to click this button, because when you click it, it will take you to a page that has the specific instructions for your MLS, and they're step-by-step. They should be super, super easy to follow. But you follow those, and basically this is it right here. This is the setup for my MLS. In my MLS in the Phoenix market, it takes about 2 minutes to do the setup, maybe 1 to 2 minutes to do the setup. I mean, it takes me 1 minute, but for you, maybe doing it your first time, we're talking like 2 minutes. It is pretty simple. Other MLSs will take longer, though. I'd say, other than the Boston area, that MLS does take the longest. Other than that MLS, I would say the longest MLS setup is between 5 and 8 minutes. But I also want to tell you that we are happy to do it for you. So if you just give us a call because you don't want to deal with it yourself, we will do the setup for you. So let us know. But if you do want to do it yourself, when you're in Spark, just click that yellow button. It'll take you to this page and you follow those instructions. And not only will it tell you how to set it up, but after the setup, it'll also tell you how to actually export from your MLS if you've never done that before. So go ahead and check that out as well. Hopefully I answered that question. Let me just make sure. Yeah, does my MLS need a special setup? Yeah, so we did answer that question. The only other thing I want to talk about, because I might have added to confusion here, is I'm using Google Chrome. In Google Chrome, when you export a file from your MLS, it puts that file right down here. And so what's nice about that is you can just take this file and drag and drop it right into Spark. It's really easy. If you're using Firefox, those files don't go down here. They're going to go right up here into the top right. There's a blue download button. You click that button, the file will appear, and then you can just drag and drop it down here, just like in Chrome, but it's up here in the top right. However, if you're using Internet Explorer or Microsoft Edge, you don't have those options. And so what you do is when you download your file, that file will not appear down here. It's going to go into your downloads folder. Or if you tell your browser, for example, sorry, let me start that over. When you download it from your MLS, if your internet browser may say, okay, we're downloading this file, where do you want to save it to? When you save it, you may tell your browser where to put it. So by default, it's going to put it into your downloads folder, unless, of course, you tell it to save it somewhere else. So check your downloads folder first, but basically what you do is when you're in Spark, and since you can't drag that file up if you're using Internet Explorer or Edge, you just click where it says upload, and then Spark is going to bring up this window. You click downloads, which should be in the top left over here of that little window. You click downloads and you find the file that you just downloaded from your MLS. Now in my case, it was this one right here. You click it and then you click open. And that's all you got to do. And when you're in Spark, let's say you're on the market analysis, it works the same way. To upload your competing properties, you click the plus button. You find the file in your downloads folder or wherever you saved it to. In this case, I think this is the file I want. And then you click open. And then Spark does it. So if you're not using Chrome or Firefox, you're not going to be able to drag and drop your files in. I would definitely encourage everyone to use Chrome if you can, because it's just easier and quicker. But if you can't and you just got to use Internet Explorer or Microsoft Edge, or you're more comfortable doing that, then all you do is you click the button and then you go into your downloads folder when the window pops up and you tell it where the file is that you just downloaded from your MLS. Again, if you're ever confused about any of that though, just give us a call and we'll guide you through it if you need help when you first do it. Okay, let's see what other questions we have here. Will Spark load in the basement information accurately? Okay, that's a good question, and that's kind of a tough one to answer. I'll do my best here. So basically, Spark does use the data from your MLS and public records, but of course, both those could be inaccurate depending on what county or what area of the country you're in. So you do want to be careful. I'm never going to tell you that Spark's going to be perfectly accurate for anything because it's using data that could be flawed based on what MLS and what county you're in. So let's just switch over to the grid here so I can kind of show you. Excuse me. So when you're looking at, so the question was about basement specifically. Now I'm in Phoenix. We don't really have basements here, so I can't show you a whole lot, but um, the data would load up and you could choose, like I showed you, you can click on basement and finished, and you can click on that and choose that you always want Spark to default to MLS or you always want Spark to default to public record. So excuse me, to public record. So you choose whatever you prefer, but you choose that, and then that's what Spark is going to load in. So it is limited to the accuracy of those data sources. But I will say on that note, specifically on basement, we have added in a couple different markets where basement tends to be less accurate or where appraisers have to do manual calculations. And so specifically, I think right now that has to do with the Chicago market or the MLS is MRED, or in the Bright MLS, depending on what area over in the Bright MLS, which is in the Northeast or Mid-Atlantic area. We have special settings for basement in those markets. So when you click on basement, like I just did, you're going to have a whole bunch of settings down here towards the bottom of the screen about how you can have Spark automatically calculate things based on, if it's a full basement and it's a one-story property, you can use 100% of the above grade area and it will make that your below grade area. And there's all kinds of calculations that you can have Spark do for that if you want it to. So make sure and go check that out. If I don't know what area you're in for whoever asked that question, but if you're in one of those markets like the MRED area or the Bright MLS, then definitely go and take advantage of those calculations that we added in for you to be able to use. Okay, so hopefully I answered that question well. Let's see what else we got here. How did you get your searches from MLS? I did already cover that, so hopefully you got that. If not, by the way, this is going to be recorded, and we're going to send this out to everybody, so everybody will have access to this, so you can go and rewind and look back at whatever parts you want to look at. I'm just trying to look through before we let you guys go to make sure there's no other questions that I'm missing. Is there an add-on fee for the cost approach? Yep, we already got that. Okay, yeah, I think we covered all of the questions. I really, really appreciate you guys taking the time. I know this went long, so thanks so much for sticking with me here. Again, thanks to everybody with ACI. We're really excited to finally be on board with ACI here. We hope you guys like it. And if you need any help or have any questions, reach out to us. All right, we'll go ahead and end this. Thanks a lot.